Hi, Year 9. So this is your photosynthesis lesson, part of your preparing for GCSE in the summer term. So today we're going to be looking at photosynthesis basics and all the things that you need to know before you start your GCSEs. You will be able to describe the process at the end of this lesson using a word and a symbol equation. You'll also be able to explain some of the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis and also give some of the uses of the glucose that the plants make when they are photosynthesizing, because obviously you probably already know or remember that they make glucose, but using that glucose is important in keeping the plant alive and also making other substances that the plant needs. If we look first at the word photosynthesis, it's a good way to remember what it means because there are other reactions as well that are quite similar. The word root, the first part of the word photo comes from photon, which is light, and synthesis means to put together. So photosynthesis means then to put together with light, because plants are able to form glucose from carbon dioxide and water using energy from light. So if we look here at the first page in this presentation, this is going to be your first task. In Google Classroom, or you can follow the link from the presentation. If you pause it here, you'll be able to type it into your browser, but it's probably easier just to follow it on the Google Classroom. Please watch the clip on photosynthesis. This is GCSE level and it'll give you lots of information that is appropriate for your studies next year. On the presentation or the YouTube video that you see, there'll be a really nice diagram that's labelled, that's at the right level for you. So when you're watching that, just pause the video for a second and pop that into your book. So draw a diagram, the structure of a leaf, into your book. If you prefer, you can look around on Google for a different diagram, completely up to you, but to have a diagram in your book so that you know the different parts of a leaf and how they relate to photosynthesis is a really good thing to have in your knowledge organizer, and you can always refer back to it later. The other thing that I want you to do is to write down the key points that are discussed in the video, and I've given you some pointers on the right hand side of the screen you're looking at now. What does a plant need for photosynthesis? So what physical substances does it need? And also, why does it need light? If you think about photosynthesis as a reaction, it's a reaction that happens inside the cells of plant. What type of reaction is it? In terms of energy. Energy has to go in. So see if you can find a description of reactions that require energy to be taken in order to happen. The next bit, how does water travel up to the leaves? So think about how water actually gets into the plant, in the roots. How does it actually then get up to the leaves where photosynthesis is going to occur? And how does CO2 enter the leaves? All of these are really important in understanding the process of photosynthesis, because without these things, it can't happen. The extension for this first task is to explain how the structure of the leaf allows the plant to photosynthesize really efficiently. Okay, if you do that, what you're doing is you're linking structure with function, which is a high-level skill at GCSE, and these are the sorts of things that get you the top marks in the tougher questions. Okay, so before I let you crack on with that, I've got a little format here that I've done in my own little exercise book that I've got at home, and this is how you can lay out your knowledge organizer. So the first bit here is the key points on photosynthesis, so those 4 things on the right hand side of the screen. The second bit here is a space for you to draw the structure of a leaf and label it all up. The other side here, you're going to do a practical or do a practical online, and you can put some results or diagrams here. And then here, the last box is all about how the plant actually uses glucose and also linking into how seeds germinate and where the energy comes from to allow them to grow roots and shoots to get out of the ground. Okay, so pause this video here for a second, complete the tasks, and then come back for the next bit. Okay, task 2. So there's 3 options here to allow you to investigate some of the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. Now, obviously, you've been homeschooling for a little while, and you know, everything's been sort of online or paper, and you know, we can't really do practical work with you at the moment. So the option to do something a little bit more practical is in this part of the lesson. So if you have anything like cress seeds, or you know, anything that's going to sort of germinate or grow really, really quickly from seeds, you can use something like that. Just put them into some damp tissue or cotton wool, because that reduces mess, particularly if you've got cats like I do. If you put soil in anything, it ends up absolutely everywhere. So cotton wool or tissue is absolutely fine for something small like cress or something similar, and they'll germinate or grow really, really happily in there, as long as you know they're well watered. So you can put some in the light and cover some up so that they're in the dark. As long as you water them, just leave them for a week, and then come back and sort of see what differences are there. Are there any differences at all? If there are, what are they? And can you describe what they look like, or draw a picture into one of the boxes in your book? Can you explain any differences if there are any? You can do this another way. You could perhaps put something on your lawn if you have a garden, and if you've got a lawned garden, it's a way to do it if you don't have any seeds. But obviously check first that that's okay to do, because it might affect the lawn, and someone might get a bit cross. The other way that we can do this is online, and we do have Focus e-learning, which some of you may have used for online practicals before with your teachers. So there is a QR code that you can follow just using your phone. If you don't want to follow the QR code, the login details are on the bottom left of the screen. So you just use the Amring student username and the password and the pathway I've written down for you. You can also see bottom right hand corner the menu list. So if you go into Essential Biology, when you hit the home page, click on, essentially it's all tiles, click on Essential Biology, the menu will come up, that big grey menu, click on Plants and then Limiting Factors, and that will actually take you through a practical where you can adjust some of the factors that limit the rate of photosynthesis and have a look at the results. So whichever way you do it, either draw a picture, write a description. If you do the online practical, you could perhaps log some of the results in a table, do a sketch graph, but note down your observations. What did you notice? There's not a strict format for this, because obviously if you're growing cress seeds, you know, you might want to measure them with a ruler. If you're putting a bowl on the grass in your garden, you might want to draw a picture or describe any differences that you see, but you won't have any numbers for that. So whichever way you do it and whichever way you log it is completely fine. I just want you to observe some things. Okay, so if you're doing the online practical, obviously come back after you've done that. If you're going to set up a more practical thing, leave it until the end of this lesson, set it up, and then obviously go back after a few days or a week, and then log your observations in your book. Okay. So task 3, this is all about what plants are able to use the glucose for. So this is the glucose that they produce in photosynthesis. Now, obviously, quite a lot of that just is used keeping the plant alive. So they need to respire the glucose that they produce, and that releases energy for the plant, and that means that the plant can carry out essential biochemical reactions. It can build other molecules, it can move things around, it's keeping the plant alive. So the other things that plants need to do, obviously, is to produce the next generation, keeping the species alive, and a big part of that, obviously, is producing seeds. So what I would like you to do is to follow the link. It'll be on your Google Classroom, but it's there just sort of underneath my little circle. That's just a little clip of a bean seedling germinating. So germinating is the process where the embryonic plant is actually emerging from the seed casing. So there's a time-lapse video there of a seed germination. You don't have to watch the whole thing. It's about 5 minutes long, which is really, really long. You only need about the first minute or so. But then what I want you to do after you've seen that is to have a look, have a search around, go on Google or, wherever you find information from. If you've got a book at home, absolutely fine. Where does the store of energy come from in the seed? Because it needs a store of energy. It hasn't got leaves, so it can't produce glucose. It needs to have a store of energy in order to be able to germinate, because germination means it's growing, it's building new cells, it's creating new cells, and it needs a huge amount of energy to be able to do that. And germination happens really quite fast. It's a really rapid period of growth in that tiny, tiny little plant. So what is it exactly that's in the seeds? How is it made? How does it get there? Why is it so important? Okay. What else do we need to do? So the other thing is to find out any other uses of glucose. So on the second 2 pages, what you'll have, this part here, remember you're going to log your observations here for your practical, and then here, uses of glucose, see if you can find 4, and then anything that you find out about germination. So you could do a drawing here of seed germination. You'll be able to find pictures on Google, or as you're watching the video, you can draw what you see and write down what you find out about the energy stores that are in the seeds themselves and where they come from, how they're synthesized, and why they're so important. Okay, so this all goes into your book, and this is your knowledge organizer for photosynthesis. This is your fundamentals of photosynthesis, and it's going to really, really help you when you come to start your GCSEs. Okay, have fun, guys. Stay safe.